In Cape Town, South Africa, a single road separates two entirely different realities. On one side, the dense, crowded tin shacks of Namzamo. Right next door, the sprawling, affluent estates of Strand. Crossing this line comes with a lethal toll. Residents on the Namzamo side live on average 7 years less than their neighbors mere meters away. When Nelson Mandela took power in 1994 and dismantled the legal framework of apartheid, the global consensus was that South Africa's era of inequality had finally ended. Yet 3 decades later, this data reveals a different story. Black South Africans make up 80% of the population, but they own just 4% of the land. Furthermore, 90% of the Black population remains geographically trapped in the exact areas where the previous regime placed them. The persistence of this divide suggests that apartheid was far more than a set of racist laws. It was a system specifically built to produce these exact economic outcomes, and that system continues to function long after the laws themselves were repealed. To understand the system, we have to go back to the late 1800s. The discovery of gold and diamonds made the region a massive financial priority for European colonizers. Extracting that wealth required plunging deep underground. To make these dangerous operations profitable, mining companies required an enormous and incredibly cheap labor force. The colonizers faced an immediate problem. The local Black population already owned their own farmland. If the mining wages were too low, they could simply walk away and return to tending their own crops. The colonial solution was to legally engineer economic dependency. By stripping Black South Africans of their assets, the state could force a self-sufficient population into the mines for survival. The state first aggressively targeted Black land ownership. Legislation like the Natives Land Act and the Group Areas Act systematically transferred prime real estate and agricultural territory out of Black hands. In cultural hubs like District 6, the state forcibly evicted 55,000 residents, moving them from their homes to barren outskirts far from economic centers. Movement was then restricted through the pass laws. These required Black citizens to carry documentation dictating exactly where they were allowed to travel and work, turning the entire country into a mobile prison system. Finally, the Bantu Education Act targeted the intellectual mobility of the next generation. The state curriculum intentionally excluded advanced math and science. Schools taught Black children basic counting, farming, and bricklaying, the precise skills needed to follow a foreman's orders, and nothing more. Together, these policies achieved a specific, lasting outcome. They created a massive Black working class legally prohibited from building wealth, ensuring they remained dependent on white-owned industries. By the 1990s, intense international banking sanctions and relentless internal rebellions finally forced the white government to the negotiating table. Nelson Mandela inherited a highly volatile economy. Seizing white-owned assets risked an immediate exodus of global capital, total economic collapse, and the threat of civil war with heavily armed white militias. This pressure led to the 1994 elitist compromise. Mandela's government traded long-term economic restructuring for immediate political stability. A central piece of this compromise is Section 25 of the Constitution. It states the government can only acquire land if it pays current owners just and equitable compensation. In practice, this protected the wealth of landowners who benefited from the previous regime. While Black South Africans achieved political freedom, this constitutional compromise effectively locked the existing economic architecture in place. Today, Section 25 paralyzes land reform. The government simply cannot afford to buy back land at modern market prices. When the state attempted to purchase 2 white-owned farms in 2018, the owners took the government to court to fight the valuation, and won. This chart shows the financial impact of that ruling. The government initially offered 20 million rand. The court mandated a sale price of 80 million, a payout that drains the state's land reform budget. Consequently, only about 8% of the country's land has been redistributed since 1994. The vast majority of agricultural wealth remains untouched. The free market is now enforcing the exact same physical and geographic boundaries that the state originally drew by force. The system of apartheid no longer requires a racist government or explicit segregation laws to operate. It has achieved full automation. Armed police are no longer necessary to keep neighborhoods separated when skyrocketing real estate prices naturally maintain the divide. Discriminatory laws are no longer necessary to force manual labor when massive generational wealth gaps and unequal school systems already guarantee that outcome. South Africa's extreme inequality reflects the success of a system functioning exactly as it was designed a century ago. The infrastructure of the past continues to dictate the outcomes of the present. True equality remains impossible until a society is willing to dismantle the underlying economic architecture that remains after the laws are gone.